The Dark Mage, Wizard, Warlock, Sorcerer, Necromancer. What an absolute staple of fantasy. Even science fantasy leans heavy on this trope with the Sith. There's something evocative about the imagery of a powerful mage or magic savant that chooses to devote themselves to dark magic, where everyone else is enamored with the wonderment of how magic can improve society, like the extra-dimensional tents or breathtaking stormy ceilings at Hogwarts and Harry Potter, or even magic's raw power of flame and fire like a Skyrim character. These things don't satiate the dark mage. No, the dark mage wants more. When told a magic is too dark or forbidden, the dark mage's lust only grows. There's a curiosity in them that pushes aside any thoughts of taboo magic to learn its secrets. Whether those mages are truly evil and, more accurately, dangerous, or whether they are simply misunderstood, is all a matter of perspective, at least to them. And that's why they make such interesting characters. So, with this as inspiration for our ultimate Dungeons & Dragons 5e Dark Mage build, we're going to throw on our theory crafting hats and make a caster that is dedicated to the dark arts. But we're going to be making choices beyond just, take all the necromancy spells, and instead create something with a lot of flavor that truly enjoys inflicting pain and suffering. To start off, we're going to need to select a race, just because I find it so hard not to select human variant on every one of these theory crafting builds. I will force myself to take something different. So we're going to go with the Yuan-Ti Pureblood. There's just too much flavor here, backed by solid game mechanics to ignore. Yuan-Ti are emotionless and feel completely superior to humans and other races, thinking of them no more than livestock. Perfect for what we need. The Yuan-Ti Pureblood is going to give us a +2 Charisma boost, a +1 Intelligence boost, Dark Vision, which is not only a very powerful trait, but also fits right in with our theme, some innate spellcasting spells with Poison Spray, a snake-only animal friendship, and Suggestion. We are also immune to poison completely, and one of the most powerful racial traits in all of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Magic Resistance. Sliding over to abilities and taking into account our racial modifiers already, we end up with an 8 Strength, 14 Dexterity, 14 Constitution, 10 Intelligence, 13 Wisdom, which will allow us to multi-class into Cleric, and of course, 16 Charisma. First off, we've got a choice to make at level 1. Now this build is going to be a very sorcerer heavy build with a small dip into Cleric, which comes very early in the build. Our choice boils down to really one big factor. Do we want proficiency in our Constitution saving throws, or do we want an extra 2 hit points and proficiency in our Wisdom saving throws? Because this build will rely on a few concentration spells, having proficiency in Constitution saves will go maybe a touch further than on Wisdom saves, especially since we have magic resistance. So we will start off our build at level 1 with Sorcerer. Specifically, we'll be taking the Divine Soul Sorcerer at level 1. Now, let's look at some of our choices and what we gain at level 1. We get proficiencies in both Charisma saves and Constitution saves, and we'll snag Deception and Arcana for skill proficiencies. We'll go with Evil for our Divine Magic feature for access to Inflict Wounds as a bonus spell. And we also get Favored by the Gods, which helps us against those saves that got past our magical resistance once per short rest. Additionally, Divine Magic now unlocks all Cleric spells for us, with the bonus that we can use them with Charisma as our primary casting stat. For our initial cantrips, we'll take Toll the Dead, Chill Touch, which both will be heavily relied on throughout the entirety of this build, Minor Illusion, and Mage Hand. Then for our first level spells, we'll snag Bane and Ray of Sickness. Now, some of you might be wondering why we didn't take Mage Armor here, and that we're very squishy without it. And I'll tell you now, you're right. The answer is simply flavor, plus the fact that we're about to rectify that next level. If you are really concerned, you can dump Ray of Sickness for Mage Armor at level 3 when you no longer need it, if you really want to take it and you are, in fact, that concerned at level 1. Speaking of which, let's move on to level 2, where we'll be taking our first and only level of Death Domain Cleric. Why the Death Domain Cleric when we already have access to divine spells? Well, this dip into Cleric is going to do a bunch of small things that add up quickly for us. One, we gain Cleric proficiencies with light armor, medium armor, shields, and our domain gives us martial weapons. 2, we gain new cantrips and some prepared first level spells. And 3, we gain the Reaper class feature, which allows us to take our necromancy cantrips and target 2 opponents with them if they're next to each other, which is a big part of the engine to this build. Okay, things to note at this point. Any spells we take and prepare with our Cleric class still use Wisdom, which is a lowly +1 for us, so keep that in mind. Our cantrips will be our driving damage dealer throughout the entire game, but because of how we've structured this, we get to apply our Reaper ability on our Sorcerer Necro cantrips, and with Divine Soul we now have flexibility of a spell attack with Chill Touch or a Wisdom save from Toll the Dead, both which get the boost and get to use our Charisma score, not our Wisdom score. And finally, because of how multiclassing works in D&D 5e, our cantrips will grow in power at the usual rate at level 5, 11, and 17, even though we're behind the curve, so to speak, on Sorcerer by 1 level. So let's finish out with the spells to take. For cantrips, I'd recommend Guidance, Resistance, and Thaumaturgy. For our first level spells, we technically get all the spells right, but again, due to being forced to cast them with Wisdom, this makes any additional offensive spells just bad. So we're going to prepare Detect Magic, which is amazing to have without having to eat up from our very few known sorcerer spells. Protection from Evil and Good, which doesn't care how low our Wisdom is, it just grants disadvantage for attackers against us. And of course, we always get False Life, which is not amazing, but again, not the worst first level spell. Okay, and now things start to really get fun at levels 3 and 4 when we go back to our Divine Soul Sorcerer. And really, we're going to take Divine Soul Sorcerer for the rest of this build all the way up to level 20. So, at level 3, we gain the Sorcerer feat Font of Magic, which unlocks our first 2 Sorcerer points, allows us to create additional spell slots, and we have a spell choice to make as well. So, we'll go ahead and take Chaos Bolt for the time being. I'll be honest, Chaos Bolt is a little redundant for us at this point. We've already had the highest damage dealing first level spell in the game since the jump in Inflict Wounds at 3d10, but what Chaos Bolt would do for us here is just short up some additional ways to throw different damage types against undead. Some other spells you might consider are Witch Bolt, for a better range than Inflict Wounds, which I passed on because it eats up your action. And anytime we can throw a cantrip without eating up a first level spell slot that targets 2 opponents with our Reaper feature, that is going to be statistically an advantage for us. Again, we want to spend those slots on Inflict Wounds for 3d10 instead. But you could also consider Burning Hands for some AoE, Magic Missile because, it doesn't miss, or even the very underrated Catapult here. At level 4, we finally get our meta magics, which will snag Twin Dispel and Quickened Spell. With 3 sorcery points, this allows us at least once per day to burst for a potential 60-10 plus 2d12 by twinning and quickening Inflict Wounds as a bonus action and following that up with a Toll the Dead against 2 targets within 5 feet of each other who have already been damaged. Obviously, this damage will have to be spread out a bit with the quickening rules, but still, that's substantial at level 4 where no one has extra attack or level 3 spells yet. For our spell choice, we're going to go with Levitate, which is clearly the ultimate dark magic spell, right? Well, actually, it is. Levitate is such an unbelievably powerful spell against targets that weigh less than 500 pounds, aka 95% of medium creatures. Why take Blindness or Hold Person when those spells give saves every single round? Just take Levitate and basically Darth Vader someone up 5 feet off the ground, leaving them helpless while you rain down Chill Touches and Toll the Deads, torturing them to death for information. Or just, to amuse your dark heart and intimidate those who might oppose you. At level 5, we get our very first ability score increase, 1 level behind everybody else, which we'll use on 2 charisma points to bump up all of our magic by 1. It's also at this point that our primary damage dealers, those deliciously evil cantrips, will also get boosted by an entire die. So yes, you heard that right. At level 5, we can throw 6d10 plus 4d12 damage with our little Inflict Wounds Toll the Dead combo. Take that, fighter, with your pathetic action surge and extra attacks, sir. Speaking of cantrips, we also get to snag another one, and clearly, it has to be Message. You want a great mechanical cantrip with the added bonus of being great in roleplay as well? Well, look no further as you whisper evil intentions and seed doubt to opponents on the battlefield and tavern goers that are foolish enough to stare at you as you enter into the room. For our spell here, we're going to take advantage of our access to the cleric list and pick up spiritual weapon with a bonus action casting time and no concentration. Good gracious, it's not a concentration spell. It plays incredibly nice with our cantrip heavy caster. Add in the bonus of a spectral scythe floating alongside you in combat that has the same damage stat regardless of how you make it look, and it's loaded with flavor as well. Oh, and we're also going to take advantage of our ability to swap a spell by swapping Chaos Bolt for Cloud of Daggers. Remember when we talked about levitate to torture someone to death? Coupled with a Cloud of Daggers, obviously not at the same time because they're both concentration, witnesses are going to be afraid. Very, very afraid. Moving on to level 6, we finally get access to our first level 3 spell, which we will use to take something most people might not think of as a dark spell at first glance, with Spirit Guardians. What a great way to take advantage of our dual spell list and pull another classic from the cleric. Spirit Guardians can in fact create not just angelic protectors, but fiendish ones as well. And instead of radiant damage, the spell will allow you to inflict necrotic damage with it. Additionally, we're going to go dig back into our spells known and make another swap by giving up the sort of redundant Ray of Sickness for a simple counter spell instead. Let me paint a scene for you real quick as to what your enemies see with you on the battlefield just at this point. Marching defiantly towards you, a cloaked sorceress, shrouded in swirling ghostly fiends and accompanied by a floating, large, eerily glowing scythe. She's armored with the breastplate, complete with the shield, emblazoned with the skull, locked in a harrowing scream, and braided leather whip lies on her hips. She points her finger at you, and her sweet yet raspy voice comes into your ear. Run. No one else reacts, but as she continues to edge closer, the town's cleric attempts to unleash a radiant flame of his own, only to see the sorceress dismiss the magic, stealing the incantation right from his very lips. As she and her companions close the gap, she reaches out to two poor souls with each hand as they seem to burst at the skin with deep gashes and fall dead, swords still in hand. She turns to two more, and a pair of ghostly blue skeletal hands begin to claw at their throats. All you can think about is running, and you try. You take a few steps, and though you feel your legs pumping for dear life, they can't seem to find purchase. You strain your neck to see your town's cleric fending for his own life as the sorceress's companions crash in on him with an enormous axe, his legs teetering, about to give out from the weight of the blows. The mistress steps into your line of sight and laughs while you swing your sword wildly, unable to reach her. She lowers the front of her cloak, and you involuntarily gasp at the sight of her snake-like appearance. She unfurls a whip from her side, and a smile creeps up her scaled face as she slides back out of view. You feel the hot pain of her whip and hear its booming crack simultaneously. As you look around desperately for someone to save you, you hear the melancholy voice in your head again. You should have ran. All of this is just at level 6. I really think we're starting to take on a true dark mage feel here that's far more than just, take all the necromancer spells. Okay, let's press forward with another third level spell slot at level 7, for which we will snag the Palpatine-esque Lightning Bolt. Of course, Fireball might be the better choice here for true AoE damage, or you could even go the Dispel magic route if you wanted. Additionally, at this level, we're going to get another origin feature of Empowered Healing. This is sort of a meh with our build ability, but it does have some usefulness for healing coming in from other party members, so there's that. At level 8, we gain 2 4th level spells. One from leveling, which we'll use to take Sickening Radiance, and another for swapping out Cloud of Daggers now for Blight. These give us a nice single target option and an upgraded AoE from Cloud of Daggers. While Sickening Radiance is an evocation spell that actually deals radiant damage, I think its description fits right in with our theme. At level 9, we get our second ASI, which again we will spend to boost our charisma an additional 2 more points to finish capping it out. And we also get to pick another spell. So here's the deal. I really looked around for something good at 3rd and 4th level at this point, but after weighing the available choices, I decided to go back down and actually take the 2nd level spell, Misty Step here. Fireball, Blur, Invisibility, I mean, there's some really good choices, but I think the safety net that Misty Step provides us, plus its synergy with our cantrips as a bonus action, really just makes this the best choice. Sliding over to level 10, there is really only a new 5th level spell choice to make, and for that we will go with Innervation. This was a tough pick for me as, like Witch Bolt, I'm not crazy about seeding an action every turn, but 48 every turn plus the ability to siphon life back from the target is good enough to take here. In 3 turns, what you're really talking about is an 18d8 swinging life for 1 spell slot. It has a 60-foot range, and while it is concentration, the target just gets 1 save. If you twin this bad boy, then you could be talking about 36d8 swing points, hit points of swing, or whatever you want to call it, in those same 3 rounds. And definitely I think that this is thematically spot on with our build with that additional siphon life ability. At level 11, we get our 2nd boost to all of our cantrips, and let me tell you, with Reaper, your Toll the Dead could be hitting for 6d12 at a pretty decent pace. Even the best Barbarian and Fighter build will struggle to keep up with that. And not only do we grab a new spell, we get another cantrip as well, which we'll use to pick up Firebolt, because why not? Backup fire damage. And for our spell, we're going to pick probably the most evil spell in the entire game, Dominate Person. Unlike all of our other charms, with Dominate Person, yes, you can order your target to slice their own throat open. This is basically the Imperious Curse from Harry Potter, one of the 3 unforgivable curses. We also get to snag another meta magic, and instead of the obvious heightened spell, I went with subtle spell here. I liked the flexibility, and honestly, just picturing your sorceress walking into an adventurer's guild hall or tavern or even a noble's estate where her presence draws the ire of some muscle boy morons, and having her cut her eyes at the biggest one while subtly casting Dominate Person and having them just reach for their dagger and slit their own neck in front of everyone else is just a cool fucking scene and super dark. Now we've reached the part of the build where we only get a new spell every 2 levels. And so for levels 12 and 13, we'll grab our 6th level spell, Mass Suggestion. Again, like Dominate Person, this spell is ridiculously OP. Has the king decided to send his guards to collect your bounty when you roll innocently into town for an ale with your friends? Mass Suggestion's something to them akin to, there can only be one Highlander. Kill all of your fellow guards so you will get to live. And sit back and, watch the fight to the death unfold. Anyone who's saved from the spell, by the way, still has to deal with all of their friends attacking them to the death, which, by the way, doesn't actually break the spell since you and your companions aren't actually attacking them. When the last one is left standing, just, hang him from the inn's joists anyways, because, you're a dark mage. And at level 13, we get our 3rd ASI, which we will use to take Resilient and boost our Wisdom 1 more point to 14. Now we have proficiencies in our Wisdom saves, a +2 modifier now, and we still have magical resistance by being a pureblood. So that will definitely shore up a lot of those weaknesses in Wisdom saves at that point. For levels 14 and 15, we get our Bat Wings from Otherworldly Wings, and for our 7th level spell, we will take Finger of Death, which is, an obvious choice here, really. For levels 16 to 17, we get another ASI, which we will use on the feat Tough. Yes, we could have boosted our Constitution, but really we're a bit too squishy at these high levels, so Tough will really help out here. Our cantrips also get their final boost, so we're throwing 8d12 Toll the Deads right now in, the right circumstances. And for our 8th level spell, we will snag Abby Dalsum's Horrid Wilting. Why? Because when else are you going to get the chance to use this spell? Unless you roll up new epic characters all the time, this is our chance to use something fun and incredibly dark, and Horrid Welting is definitely both. At level 18, we get our last meta magic, which we will use this time on Heightened Spell because we need it for this part of the game. And we also get the spell. What spell? The spell. Wish. There is simply no other spell to take here because Wish is all the spells. For one action and a verbal component, or maybe not even that with a sorcery point for subtle spell, you just get to cast any 8th level or lower spell in the game, regardless of the original spell's casting time length. Want to teleport away? How about make a small temple to your god just appear out of thin air? Or what if you want to clone yourself a new, younger body so you can continue to live forever? No problem. Just need an action. And finally, for levels 19 and level 20, we get Unearthly Recovery to keep us on our feet a little bit more, and one more ASI, which we will use this time for a couple more points in Constitution to boost our life even further. Whew, that was a bit of a long one. These build videos always are, but honestly, I'm very pleased with this particular build. There's not a lot of multi-classing like I usually like to do, but there was still a lot of depth to this build in the spell choices, and I think we really have something that is going to feel like a dark mage. If you play this character in a campaign, it is going to feel like something different. It's going to feel like a thing instead of just another wizard, just another sorcerer, just another warlock, whatever. So I'm very, very, very happy with this build. But I want to know, where would you change it? Where are the little points? Do you not like Chaos Orb at the beginning? Or would you rather take Witch Bolt? Do you not like the spell choice of dipping back down for Misty Step at level 9? Where would you guys make changes to this build? I really want to know. I, of course, want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing patrons over at welcomeadventures.com. Guys, it's because of you that I can keep doing this, and so for that, I am incredibly grateful. If you guys like what I do here, you want to support more content like this and snag some rewards for yourself, welcomeadventures.com is a great place to do that. I will be posting up several levels of this build over there for all of the Patreons, regardless of level. So go check out welcomeadventures.com if you want to grab a copy of this build. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I would love to have you subscribe. Every week I put out new videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, just hit the subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.